So, this week in pose practice, technically not a week. This is what, February 22nd to, what day is it today? It's the 27th. 22nd to the 27th, so almost a week. Going forward, it'll be a week. Doesn't really matter what day is which, does it? This is the 23rd. Kind of use this session as a reminder of how well I'm doing more than anything, because it's kind of easy to forget how, like, some of these are a little wonky. I think I started this one from like here, and then the proportions got all weird because I did the legs first and I didn't really pay attention to the rest. I don't know if this is correct. I might have drawn it in a different order, but usually what I do is I'll start with the head. And that gives me a good starting point. Like if you look at the head, they're generally all the same size. I mean, I've resized these, and you can kind of see the heads are rather uniform. It's because I usually start there, and I'm getting used to drawing, like say, if I do the head this size, then I know the rest of the body will be kind of like, you know, maybe like this size. I don't know what this middle line is. Right? So I'm getting used to these proportions, but when I start in a weird place, when I don't start with the head, and even sometimes when I am starting with the head and like drawing as usual, sometimes the proportion winds up a little off. Like maybe here, this torso feels a little big compared to the legs. I'm just trying to pay attention to the full picture. Like I'm not just, okay, I'm drawing a leg now, I am now drawing a leg. You know, I'm trying to think, okay, I'm drawing a leg that is attached to a pelvis that is in this shape, that has, you know, and the spine is coming up like this. And in the pose, the weight is going to be something around here. So I'm trying to have all that information in mind when I'm drawing the leg, and also while looking at the reference. I'm not just, okay, here's the shoulder, arm, you know. Approach each part of the pose with the others in mind. Like you can't draw something like this without thinking, okay, the hands have to be on the knee. So if I'm starting from the shoulder, let's say I've already done the lower half, and now I'm going to draw the arms. My shoulder is here, and my hand I know has to be on this knee, right? That kind of gives you where the arm should be, because you know the proportions of the arm, right? The bicep, or whatever this is, right? Upper arm and the lower arm, the forearm, they're more or less the same size. And the arm can't bend this way, at least it shouldn't, right? So there's things like that that I'm trying to keep in mind that is really helping me put together more competent, complete, like it's helping me bring a more complete feeling. This is from the 25th. And like stuff like this where there's a lot of action going on. Like the twist going on here, there's more that you have to think about, not just the proportion of where, you know, the relationship, again, like this hand on the hip, kind of gives you where the shoulder should be with the twist. If the shoulder is raised up like this and the arm is back, it kind of gives you where things should be. So the more I'm doing these pose practices, the more I'm realizing, like this one's pretty good. There's a lot of action in here. Same with this one. The more I'm realizing that you really have to look at the entire pose, not just the pose, but also what the pose is like, the action, like think of it as if it's moving, like this arm is like swinging up, you know, this leg, you can really feel the weight of this one flying forward, right? This one, you can feel them leaning back and then kind of like, hey, you can feel the tilt of the body here when you look at the pose, right? And I guess it's cool to say that looking at the drawings that I've done, I can kind of notice and feel that, right? Not all the time, but like you can feel the slight angles going on here. Like you could feel the balance of it well. And I think that's because I'm trying to focus on the entire pose, like I said, right? There are things that give me trouble. I've mentioned many times legs in particular. I tend to draw them a little wide, I think, proportionally. And the calves. I don't really know how to do calves yet. Like this is a little thick, right? I mentioned at the top of the stream here that I did a little bit of exploration into the shape of the thigh, and it's kind of given me a little bit of insight into what I might be doing wrong. And to demonstrate that, I wonder if I can... So here's some pictures of Princess Zelda. If I were to draw over her, so say if the pelvis is like this, it's kind of like this. I think of this corner as the extent of how, like, if you look at legs, like this is kind of as far as they're going to go out to the sides. So like that's kind of the bottom of the pelvis, this trapezoid. So there's a space in between. And I think the reason I've been drawing the thighs too wide is because I'm not really accounting for that space. If you look, like the center line, it's kind of like this. And then the inner thigh line comes basically straight down. And then the outer is where it goes in from this, the extent point, right? And then the calves and the feet. So it's kind of this, I mean, yeah, hourglass shape or whatever, but really where I've been struggling is that I haven't really been taking into account this. The inner thigh line kind of comes straight down, and the only angle, I mean, it might come slightly to the side. Most of it is from here. And then like your leg, basically, it doesn't start from here. Your leg starts from like the top of the pelvis, right? So if you think of it like that. So like here's the bottom of the pelvis, and we'll go to like maybe here, around the belly button, right? Somewhere around here is the belly button. The thighs kind of come straight down. There's like a little bit of meat around here, and then they're really kind of straight down to the knee. So it's kind of like that. And then it's like this, and kind of here's the top of your legs, right? Right? And then this line is rather straight. But this line, from the extent of the leg, is where it comes into the knee. You know, maybe her knee is more down here, but it's more so that kind of a shape. So if you remove that, I mean, proportionally, that seems pretty good. So I've been kind of thinking about that today. And so I cut down on kind of the inside of the thigh here and there. I tried to do that. But again, I didn't really get any straight on poses to really try it all too much. But my legs in today's, except maybe this one was foreshortening got me though, right? Right? Like if you go back, like say for this one, for example, right? You see how I'm not really treating the center line of the thighs that fairly here? You know, like, I feel like there's a little too much going on here. I don't really know. It's hard to say. You know, it might really only be helpful for those, for those straight on poses. But I feel like that's something that I haven't been doing. Anyway, that's just kind of a random thought that I've had today. And all in all, though, I think this week went pretty well, like they all do. I keep saying this. I'm routinely surprised at how well these come across when I'm done. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll be back with more analysis next week.